absolutely unbelievable how the turnaround happened within less than 24 hours.
Regret-sit.
The fall is going to be the great story of the Sussexes, and how it unravels is going to be fascinating because there's only one way this is going, and that's badly for them.
And I think the kids are a little bit of a pawn in all this.
Meghan, she's out to destroy.
Meghan Markle's grand return to Britain may already be falling apart before it has even properly begun. Less than 24 hours after her name was suddenly linked to a major acting opportunity on Netflix's The Gentleman, the entire story appeared to flip.
It looks like Meghan has essentially just got off on the worst possible foot for someone who is looking to relocate to another country.
Before we get into today's story, I wanted to let you know that I finally launched my Patreon. Many of you have been asking for more royal family content, so that's exactly what I'll be posting there. Exclusive investigations, bonus videos, breaking royal news, and members-only discussions that won't be available on YouTube. If you're interested, you'll find the link in the description. Now, let's get into today's story. One moment, Meghan was being presented as a woman preparing for a dramatic return to acting in Britain. The next, the possibility was being described as off the table.
Was this just a PR stunt from Meghan? Were they ever in talks? What stage of talks were they in the first place? And why would she go on The Gentleman? That's not really her vibe.
That is not a comeback. That is whiplash. And the timing could hardly be worse. For days, the Sussex return to Britain has been sold as a huge reset, a fresh chapter. A chance for Harry to rebuild old relationships, for Meghan to create new opportunities, and for both of them to prove that leaving America is not an admission that the big Hollywood experiment has run out of steam.
Will it work out? Does anything ever work out for this permanently unsettled couple whose struggle to find their place in the world is a painful spectacle to behold?
Then Meghan's supposed acting comeback arrived. It sounded almost too perfect. A popular British series, a high-profile director, Netflix, a role that could place Meghan right back in front of the cameras. Suddenly, there was an obvious answer to one of the biggest questions surrounding the move. Why would Meghan, after years of keeping Britain at arm's length, suddenly be willing to spend so much more time there?
She was going to get a job on that.
The Gentleman, yeah.
Yes. That was going to give her £1 million. So she must have been delighted and think, oh, yes, I'll come, it's fine. But actually, he's run away because he thinks, obviously, she's speaking too much, she's talking too much, and he doesn't want her telling him what to do.
Maybe she had a job waiting. Except now, even that explanation is wobbling. There was never an official Netflix casting announcement. There was no public announcement from Guy Ritchie saying Meghan had joined the show. There was no signed deal shown to the public.
She thought she was being cute by trying to give people the idea of her being on a show. Because one moment it was she's starring in it, and then the next there's preliminary talks. Look, I just have one question. Who leaked this story? Who leaked it, y'all?
The story began with talk of conversations and a possible role, and almost immediately grew into headlines about Meghan's acting return. Then came the reversal. The current claim is that the proposed opportunity was withdrawn after the reaction in Britain became too difficult to ignore. If that is accurate, Meghan has just suffered one of the most awkward 24-hour turnarounds of her post-royal career.
By allowing Meghan's possible involvement in The Gentleman to become public before anything was even finalized, completely blew up, and now Meghan looks humiliated. It looks as if she was dropped. But was she even considered to even be on that show in the first place, which is what you have to look at.
But that raises an even bigger question. Who let the story out before anything was final? Because that may be the most fascinating part of this entire mess. If Meghan was genuinely in early discussions, why would anyone want those discussions splashed across the press before a contract was signed?
You should have shut your mouth. And if she wasn't in talks, but she just made it up, what you doing? Like, still shut your mouth.
Why create a public vote on Meghan Markle before the people making the show had even made their final decision? That is the exact opposite of keeping a sensitive negotiation under control. And if the story came from somewhere close to Meghan because somebody believed the publicity would create excitement, then the strategy may have backfired spectacularly.
This is all about money. They're desperate for money. All of their projects have failed. As ever, her ridiculous online business is clearly on the brink of implosion. It's not making any money.
Think about the sequence. First, Meghan is linked to the role. Then, the headlines explode. Then, the British reaction becomes part of the story. Then, in less than a day, the whole opportunity appears to disappear. That is brutal.
Did Netflix just go about humiliating Meghan Markle on the eve of her move to the UK?
So, perhaps, the bigger story is not that Meghan wanted to act again. Perhaps the bigger story is that she still needs something to work. Something has to become the next success. Something has to justify the move. Something has to turn the Sussex brand back into a premium product. And Britain may now be part of that strategy.
This is Harry desperately trying to find and build a new life in Britain. And I think there's a mood here amongst people, well, don't let's take it out too much on him. But Meghan, I mean, there's no way they're going to have her back.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get the protection he's demanding.
But there is another problem. What does Britain actually think about having them back? The public reaction is more complicated than the loudest headlines suggest. Some people wish them well. Some say family relationships should be repaired. Some are perfectly happy to say welcome home. But one response keeps jumping out because it may be more dangerous to a celebrity brand than anger. I couldn't care less.
I just don't care.
Personally, I couldn't care less.
I don't really have any thoughts, to be honest.
You know, I think they get a bad rap.
That is devastating in a completely different way. Anger still creates attention. Anger still keeps a name at the center of the conversation. Indifference is colder. After years of interviews, documentaries, books, speeches, revelations, feuds, and comeback attempts, some people are not furious anymore. They are tired.
He's burnt his bridges so many times with the royal family. You know, he needs to live his own life, how he wants to live it. And I think unfortunately, it takes up too much press time. It takes up too much security. So yeah, he's not doing himself any favors.
And if Harry and Meghan are returning because Britain offers a new stage, that stage is not automatically waiting to applaud them. And Britain's indifference matters commercially as well. If the Sussexes are going to rebuild their value through British visibility, they need attention that feels fresh. They need curiosity. They need people to believe the comeback itself is an event.
She is a narcissist. She's not going to handle being booed. She's not going to like people being negative about her. She's not going to get a good reception. Harry struggles to get a good reception. And this is why they have carefully controlled crowds wherever they go. You know, like we saw in Australia, they had a small segment of Sydney Opera House, nothing like the real royals got, or even when they went over there. But it's done so the camera angles make it look like there's crowds of people around them.
But what happens if the public response is simply a shrug? You can sell outrage. You can sell controversy. You can even sell a feud. It is much harder to sell exhaustion. That is why the phrase, "I couldn't care less," is such a warning sign. It suggests that after years of constant drama, the public may not be waiting for the next chapter with the same intensity anymore.
Important self-deportations that can unite all of America. This is the first thing we've been able to agree upon in over a decade. Meghan and Harry are leaving. Praise Jesus. They're going. Get back to the UK. Go become somebody else's problem. We're sick of you. We have enough weirdos, narcissistic, obsessed Americans already. The country's full. It's saturated. Go home, Harry. We never wanted you here to begin with.
So the Sussexes need a new hook, a new project, a new image, or a renewed royal connection powerful enough to make people look again. Which brings us to the strangest possibility of all. They may not need to become working royals again. They may simply need to look royal enough.
To add to the awkwardness, Charles has instantly put the blocks on Harry's cherished desire for a half-in, half-out working royal arrangement. It's not going to happen.
They do not need the official job to benefit from the image. They need proximity. They need photographs. They need the royal connection to feel current again. And that is why the financial pressure around Harry suddenly matters so much. Because this return is happening at the same time as an ugly legal cost fight.
And as I say, all of this is about money, because the devastating costs decision in Prince Harry's court case today against the Daily Mail are complicated.
After Harry and other claimants lost their case against Associated Newspapers, the claimants were ordered to make an initial payment of £9.5 million toward the publisher's legal costs. Associated Newspapers is seeking total costs of £34.5 million.
They knew they were going to have to pay a significant amount of costs. They wanted to pay £7.5 million this month. The judge said, no, for now, you pay £9.5 million. But, and this is the big but, your total bill is uncapped, which means that it could be as high as what the Daily Mail is asking for, £34.5 million.
That does not mean Harry personally owes £34.5 million. It is important not to turn the total figure in a multi-claimant legal dispute into Harry's individual bill. But the financial exposure is still serious. The argument now is over how much of those costs are ultimately recoverable, how much insurance covers, and how much each claimant could eventually be responsible for.
But I then wonder how the other claimants feel about Harry now. Can you imagine?
Because they didn't sign it.
They didn't sign it, but if it's affected all of them because of Harry running his mouth off.
For Harry, that means another potentially enormous expense hanging over a life that is already extremely expensive to maintain. Then add security. One estimate has suggested that a high-level full-time security arrangement could cost as much as around £5 million a year.
Brits are now almost certain to be asked to fund an insane £5 million security bill annually as the duplicitous Duke and fake Duchess almost immediately start their old games with the British press.
Again, that is an estimate, not a confirmed annual bill. But even the possibility creates a financial headache. For years, security was one of Harry's biggest arguments about Britain. He repeatedly made clear that he did not feel his family could return under the arrangements available to him. Now they are returning anyway. So what changed?
All that narrative. Oh, I can't bring them back. It's so sad. You know, my wife's going to get acid chucked in her face. We're all going to get... I can't ever come back. Oh, no. Suddenly, don't worry about that. We're going to come back anyway.
Did the risk suddenly disappear? Did the old argument become less important? Or did the pressure to come back become bigger than the pressure to stay away? That contradiction is going to follow Harry everywhere. And it brings us directly to the money question. Why now? Why Britain? Why, after 6 years of building a completely separate life in America? The answer being pushed again and again is simple. Money and position.
Here's a picture of them returning. There you go. Don't they look happy? Don't they look happy?
Welcome.
In America, their American dream has become a total nightmare. Everything they've touched turned to mud.
Yeah.
Literally everything.
So they're going to have some pocket money off Charles.
The American experiment did not produce the endless series of giant commercial successes that Harry and Meghan appeared to expect when they left royal life. Yes, there were major deals. Yes, Harry had a hugely successful book. Yes, their royal story generated enormous interest. But look closely at what made the biggest money. Their connection to the royal family.
But they're coming to absolutely make it as nasty and as anything as they can.
The interviews were valuable because they were talking about the royals. The documentary was valuable because viewers wanted to hear about the royals. Harry's book was valuable because he was a prince telling stories about royal life. Their biggest commercial asset was never simply Harry and Meghan as two ordinary celebrities.
The departure of Harry and Meghan is the first issue that has actually united Americans in 10 years.
It was Harry and Meghan as two people with direct access to the most famous royal institution in the world, and that asset becomes weaker the longer they are physically and emotionally separated from it. 6 years in California creates distance. Britain creates proximity.
The only thing that made them famous was being part of the royal family. Nobody is paying them anymore for books, TV, or candles. Harry and Meghan are completely running out of money. They are hoping Daddy King Charles will fund their lifestyle again. And after this damning court decision today, which doesn't cap the legal costs that Prince Harry has to pay back to the Daily Mail, he could be facing a massive bill.
That is why a return can make commercial sense, even if they are never officially welcomed back as working royals. Imagine Harry attending a major British charity event one day and Prince William carrying out an official engagement the next. To the palace, those are completely different things. To the casual viewer watching television, they can start to look surprisingly similar. Prince Harry arrives, cameras flash, people gather, a charity receives attention, Harry gives a speech.
Poll sampling more than 5,000 people of varying ages today, finding that just 21% of the public believe Harry and Meghan should return to Britain. They cannot forgive the Sussexes. They cannot forgive the Sussexes. I'll repeat that. I think that's great. They are determined to look forward to the future. Yeah, a future without them.
The words Duke of Sussex appear on screen. That looks royal. And if Meghan appears beside him, suddenly she is back in a setting that resembles the world she left.
Guy Ritchie's Netflix TV series has been withdrawn because Ritchie has decided that there's too much of a backlash. It's causing too much gossip, and he doesn't need it, so it doesn't look like she's going to get that role.
And notice how quickly the wording around this story changed. At first, it sounded big. Meghan was returning to acting. Meghan had a new British opportunity. Meghan was ready for a major television comeback. Then the details became much softer. Conversations, possibility, potential role, nothing officially announced. That matters, because if there was no final agreement, then Meghan did not lose a job she had already signed for.
Meghan Markle in talks for the gentleman. That was everywhere. There was Meghan's comeback, Meghan returning to television in Great Britain, Meghan's new UK role. And before the ink was even anywhere near the paper, the British public reacted. Now, this is the other thing that they're saying, and apparently they didn't react well.
But from a public relations point of view, it can still look like she was rejected after the world was told she was on the way in. That image is damaging all by itself. And this is exactly why the leak question matters more than the casting question. A private conversation can disappear quietly. A public comeback cannot. Once Meghan's name was attached to the project, the story stopped being about a possible audition or a possible discussion. It became a referendum on Meghan herself. Every headline raised the stakes. Every reaction made the decision more awkward.
Meghan Markle's potential for acting and having somewhat of a comeback in Great Britain, I believe, is already over, because this is like one of the most humiliating things that can happen to you on a global stage.
Every hour made it harder to pretend this was just an ordinary casting conversation. That is the danger of announcing victory before the finish line. Because now there are only two possibilities, and neither one looks especially comfortable. Either Meghan was genuinely close enough to the role for the story to have substance, in which case the publicity may have arrived far too early. Or the talks were never as advanced as the headlines made them sound, in which case the comeback was inflated before there was anything solid underneath it. Both routes end in the same place. Meghan looks like she was racing ahead of reality.
They haven't actually signed anything yet, but she can't wait. She tells everybody the papers aren't to say anything, but she will say something. So she knew that, but now that's going to be a little more difficult.
And for a woman whose entire return to Britain is being watched for signs of desperation, that is exactly the image she cannot afford. And it becomes even more uncomfortable when you remember what Meghan has spent the last year trying to build. As ever was supposed to be the big new chapter, the lifestyle brand, the products, the polished image, the idea that Meghan did not need Hollywood to rescue her because she was building something of her own.
And this was part of the reason why she was willing to move back there. We all know she doesn't like Britain. She has talked endlessly about her dislike for the country, dislike for the royal family. So, of course, the question became when Harry and Meghan announced their move back, it's like, why? We all know why Harry wants back, but why does Meghan?
So why does she suddenly need a new acting job? If As Ever is booming, if the brand is thriving, If the business is becoming the success story Meghan needed, why is she apparently exploring a return to acting at the exact moment she is also moving back toward Britain? Running a serious company is not a casual side project. It takes time, focus, money, and constant attention. Yet Meghan seems to keep jumping from one identity to the next. Producer, lifestyle founder, television personality, actress again, royal adjacent public figure. Which one is the real plan?
Meghan, she was reportedly in preliminary conversations about possibly appearing in a future third season of Guy Ritchie's Netflix series, The Gentleman. Okay, remember those words, people. Preliminary conversations. Meghan hadn't officially been cast. Nothing was official, but we were seeing headlines that she was.
There is also a branding problem. Meghan's recent image has been soft, polished and controlled, lifestyle, home, and a carefully built new identity. Then suddenly comes The Gentleman, a very British production with a completely different tone and audience. That makes the career question even louder. Is Meghan building one clear path, or testing doors to see which one still opens? The moment one British door appeared to open, the story was everywhere. Then it slammed shut. So this is bigger than one role.
There is absolutely no consideration for that woman, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, to be considered for any role on the Netflix show, The Gentleman. Did Meghan, in her shady ways, cost herself any potential to be on that show, The Gentleman?
What is the successful post-royal version of Meghan Markle actually supposed to be? That is becoming the problem. Every time one lane looks shaky, another lane suddenly appears, and the Hollywood picture is not helping. The much-hyped entertainment projects have not created the endless string of giant wins that once seemed possible. Cookie Queens became another disappointment. The enormous streaming era that began with huge excitement no longer looks like an unlimited cash machine. And now, the first big acting story attached to Meghan's British return appears to have collapsed almost as soon as it arrived.
But I don't think that ever would have been the real reason they came back. There's not enough money involved. That's not what it is. I think they're coming back because I think it's just as simple as this. I think Harry's going to have to go to his dad and say, "Daddy, can I have some money?" to bail them out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he might give it to them.
That distinction could define everything that happens next. Harry can attend major charity events. Meghan can appear beside him. They can be photographed in Britain. They can move through the same social world as members of the royal family. They can be close enough to royal events that every appearance becomes a headline. And suddenly, the Sussex name looks different again. Not two former royals living thousands of miles away in California. Not two celebrities trying to convince Hollywood that another project will finally become the big one, but the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, back in Britain, appearing at prestigious events, standing near the institution that made their names globally valuable in the first place.
We are in, folks, for the most incredible tawdry royal soap opera.
That is the image they can sell. That is the association they can commercialize. That is why the suggestion of a part-time royal appearance is so explosive. Not an official part-time royal deal. That door appears firmly shut. Something more subtle. A private couple who continue commercial work, but build a public schedule in Britain that looks royal enough to keep the connection alive. That would be half in, half out, without the palace ever agreeing to half in, half out. And you can immediately see the problem for William and Catherine. The monarchy runs on structure. Official engagements are planned carefully.
Harry owes his poor pa a very public apology. Not a phone call, not a private word over tea at Highgrove, public, said where the country that mourned Elizabeth II can hear it. I mean, I think we all deserve a public apology, don't you?
Roles are defined. The working royals represent the institution. Now imagine another royal-looking operation running beside it. Not official. Not controlled by the palace. Not bound by the same rules, but carrying titles, attracting cameras, and generating headlines. That creates confusion, and confusion can be profitable. The closer Harry appears to his father, the more valuable his royal connection may look. The more often Meghan is photographed at British events, the easier it becomes to sell the idea that she is back in the royal orbit.
Montecito Mansion is going to go up on the market. I think they're going to try and, this is all speculation, but I think they'll try and sell it. I mean, what's it going to do? Just sitting there in California. Meghan is going to want to go back and forth. She hates the UK. And that's where I get to think, okay, I think Harry is driving this move.
Oh, yeah.
And what direction is that going to take for the relationship?
A year ago, 6 months ago, Harry didn't get a look in. She called the shots.
Exactly.
He did exactly what she said. Now suddenly she's doing what he said. He's calling the shots. And the reason she's doing it is money. She can't make money. As ever, absolute disaster. She might as well forget about it. She's not making any money. He's not making any money. So basically, she sees Harry quite rightly as her meal ticket, and she's coming back to cash in on what she sees as a closer royal connection.
The more the public sees them near the monarchy, the less former royal life in California defines them. That may be the real reset, not reconciliation for reconciliation's sake. Relevance. And this is why the palace has such a difficult problem. It cannot stop Harry and Meghan living in Britain as private citizens. It cannot stop Harry supporting causes he has worked with for years. It cannot stop cameras from following famous people. But it can refuse to blur the line between private Sussex activity and official royal work. That line is going to become incredibly important.
Queen Camilla will be less than thrilled. She despises Meghan and seethes with contempt for Harry, who cruelly called her the villain of the story in his spiteful book Spare.
Because if Harry and Meghan want the benefits of royal proximity without the restrictions of royal duty, we are right back where this entire argument started. Freedom on one side, royal status on the other. Commercial independence on one side. The power of the monarchy on the other. They want it out. Now they may want close enough to get the glow back. And Meghan's acting drama makes that look even more urgent. Think about where we started. A shiny new British job. A dramatic return to acting.
My thoughts are that I'm not especially happy about it because they trashed the whole country numerous times, betrayed their family, betrayed his king, his father, went out to America, and now they're bored and now they want to come back.
I don't know, it's very odd. It's all been a complete surprise to us, hasn't it? And it doesn't fill me with joy.
A perfect explanation for why Meghan would embrace Britain again. Then, within hours, the job story appears to collapse. Questions erupt over who leaked it. Questions return over, as ever. Questions grow over whether Hollywood is still offering the opportunities Meghan once expected. Then Harry's legal expenses come into view. Then the security cost. Then the royal connection. Suddenly, the UK return does not look like one simple family decision. It looks like a pressure point where career, money, image, and royal status all collide at once. And that is why the next few weeks matter. If Meghan quickly lands another serious project, the narrative changes.
Montecito's loss is London's loss. Their all-American dream in tatters after 6 sorry years that turned into a nightmare of total failure.
If As Ever produces clear momentum, the narrative changes. If Harry keeps a clear distance from official royal life and simply gets on with private work, the part-time royal theory weakens. But if we start seeing Harry and Meghan repeatedly positioning themselves around royal-style events while the commercial machine continues running in the background, people are going to notice, and William will notice too. The biggest threat is not that Harry walks back into the palace tomorrow and receives an official role. That seems highly unlikely.
Today, at the so-called Sussex Summit in Balmoral, Prince William has secured a promise from King Charles that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will not officially return as working royals.
The bigger issue is whether the Sussexes can create the appearance of royal relevance without actually being working royals. Because appearance has always been valuable. A title is valuable. A photograph is valuable. A connection is valuable. And after the American dream lost its shine, Britain may suddenly look a lot more useful than it did before. So, was Meghan's possible role on The Gentlemen supposed to launch her triumphant British comeback? Did the publicity get ahead of the reality?
I mean, is this not the biggest admission of an experiment gone bad? These two are
They're useless. They're useless, Kinsey. That's the point. That everything they touched in America turned to mud.
Did the backlash end the idea before it was even finalized? And if that job is now gone, does the Sussex return become even more dependent on the one brand they can never completely separate themselves from, the royal family? That is the irony at the center of this entire story. Harry and Meghan spent years proving they could build a new life outside the monarchy. Now, as they head back toward Britain, the most valuable thing they may still have is the royal connection they once insisted they no longer needed. And if this return becomes a battle over who controls that connection, the drama has only just started. If you enjoyed this video and want even more royal family content, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I'm uploading exclusive investigations, bonus content, and members-only videos that won't be released on YouTube. I'll be adding new content regularly. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to everything, the link is in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.